He never imagined that the girl everyone feared, the billionaire daughter who never smiled, would be the first person to choose him when the whole world rejected him. But what she revealed on the day she hugged him for the first time changed his entire life. Sparkles, before we begin, make sure you like this video and subscribe to the channel for more heart-touching stories. Sparkles. Ethan was the kind of father whose love shone through even in the darkest moments, but life hadn't been kind to him. His wife had left him 5 years ago, leaving behind only a short note saying she wanted freedom, and Ethan had raised his little daughter Lily completely on his own. He worked 2 jobs, one as a mechanic during the day and one as a night shift helper at a supermarket, barely earning enough to keep food on the table, yet he never let Lily feel the weight of hardship. She was 6 years old, bright-eyed, with a smile that could soften even the coldest hearts, but lately something had been troubling Ethan more than his exhaustion. No woman wanted to date a single dad struggling from paycheck to paycheck. Whenever he mustered the courage to meet someone new, he would see the moment they discovered he had a child, the subtle shift in their expression, the polite but distant smile, the excuses. "You're a great guy, but I'm just not ready for that kind of responsibility." It became a sentence engraved in his memory. But Ethan never resented them, he only wished someone would accept Lily as part of the package. Meanwhile, in the wealthiest part of the city, a girl unlike any other lived her life in silence. Isabella Hart, the only daughter of the billionaire CEO Margaret Hart, had a reputation for being cold, distant, impossible to approach. Rumors spread that she had no emotions, that wealth had made her arrogant, that she believed everyone was beneath her, but none of that was true. Isabella was simply lonely. Her mother had raised her with strict expectations, locking her life within walls of business meetings, etiquette classes, and fear of the outside world. Isabella was 15, brilliant but isolated, and every night she stared from her penthouse window into the city below, longing for something real, something warm, something she didn't even know existed. Fate brought Ethan and Isabella together on a rainy evening when Ethan rode his old motorcycle to pick Lily up from a school charity event. A limousine blocked the entrance, and from it stepped Isabella, escorted by security. Lily, innocent and curious, approached her. "Hi, I like your shiny shoes," she said with a giggle. Isabella looked startled. No one had ever spoken to her like that, but for the first time in years, she smiled. A tiny, fragile smile, but a smile. Ethan hurried over, embarrassed, apologizing for Lily's boldness, but Isabella simply nodded, her eyes softening when she saw him lift Lily into his arms with a gentleness she had never witnessed before. Over the next few weeks, Isabella began volunteering at Lily's school, claiming it was for community exposure, but the truth was something she didn't dare say. She felt drawn to the warmth this little family shared, warmth she had never experienced. Every time she watched Ethan tie Lily's shoelaces or laugh with her, something inside Isabella ached, an ache of longing, of hope, of the childhood she never had. But Margaret Hart noticed her daughter's changes and grew suspicious. She wanted her daughter nowhere near people below their social level, especially not a struggling single dad. What Isabella's mother didn't know was that Isabella had already made her choice. Isabella's world began to shift the day she followed Lily into the school garden and found Ethan repairing a broken swing with nothing but old tools and determination. Lily clapped happily, and Isabella watched, mesmerized by how naturally Ethan blended hard work with tenderness. She approached quietly, asking if she could help, expecting to be brushed aside by an adult like usual, but Ethan simply smiled and handed her a screw, explaining what to do. It was the first time someone had spoken to her without fear, without the pressure of status, without treating her like porcelain. As the sun set, she felt something entirely new, belonging. Lily, unaware of boundaries, dragged Isabella to their small home a few days later for a surprise tea party, and though Isabella hesitated, she went. Inside their tiny apartment, she found mismatched furniture, hand-drawn pictures on the fridge, and the smell of cheap instant noodles, but she also felt more comfort than her enormous mansion had ever given her. She sat on the floor coloring with Lily while Ethan cooked dinner, humming softly. She had never heard a father's humming before. She had never eaten food made with love instead of recipes. And she had never been part of a moment so normal. But normal felt magical. When Ethan walked her out, thanking her for visiting, Isabella felt her heart tighten. No one in her world thanked her for simply being there. A week later, Margaret Hart confronted Ethan in the school parking lot, her voice sharp and dripping with superiority. She accused him of manipulating her daughter, of trying to climb the social ladder. Ethan tried to explain he hadn't done anything, but his words were drowned by her arrogance. Isabella, overhearing everything, trembled with anger, a rare emotion she had never expressed toward her mother. That night, she locked herself in her room and cried, remembering the warmth of Lily's hug, the safe tone of Ethan's voice, the happiness she had felt. She didn't care about wealth. She didn't care about status. She cared about kindness. And Ethan was the first person to show her what kindness looked like. Days passed, and Margaret forced her daughter into a tighter schedule, private tutors, security escorts, even social training to fix her behavior. But Isabella found small escapes, secret messages exchanged with Lily through school staff, a hidden notebook where she wrote about the father and daughter who had changed her life, and a growing determination burning inside her. Eventually, during a school festival, Isabella saw Ethan and Lily from a distance. She stepped toward them, ignoring her security. Lily ran to her and hugged her waist, and Ethan's shocked expression softened into a welcoming smile. The world around her faded. She knew then, she wanted this connection, this family, this warmth. And she was willing to fight for it. But just as she was about to speak, Margaret appeared again, furious, pulling Isabella away and humiliating Ethan publicly. Lily cried, Ethan stayed silent, and Isabella was dragged home like a prisoner. That night, she stood before her mother with trembling hands and said the words that would change everything, I choose them. Not their status, their hearts. And Margaret did not take it well. The storm that followed was unlike anything Isabella had ever faced, but for the first time in her life, she didn't back down. When Margaret threatened to cut her off from school activities, Isabella threatened to expose her mother's manipulation to the company board. When Margaret tried to bribe Ethan to disappear, Isabella tore the check in half in front of her. She refused luxurious gifts, stopped attending elite gatherings, and even walked out of a formal dinner when her mother insulted Ethan again. The media caught glimpses of the tension, sparking headlines, but Isabella didn't care. She had finally learned what it meant to defend something real. One evening, she escaped her penthouse and ran through the city streets to Ethan's apartment, arriving breathless and in tears. Ethan opened the door, stunned. She apologized for everything her mother had done, for every moment he felt disrespected, and then she said softly, I don't want your money, your status, or anything you don't have. I just want a family that feels like home. You and Lily, your home. Ethan was speechless. Lily hugged Isabella tightly, wiping her tears. It was the first time Ethan saw Isabella not as the billionaire girl, but as a child who had never been loved the way she deserved. Over the next months, Isabella visited frequently, studying with Lily, helping Ethan with chores, learning things she had never known, how to fold laundry, how to fix a loose cabinet hinge, how to laugh freely. Meanwhile, Margaret watched her daughter drift further away and began to realize that this was not a phase. Her daughter was becoming stronger, more confident, braver than she had ever been. In an unexpected turn, Margaret attended one of Lily's school events alone. She saw Ethan helping children with crafts, saw Lily running around happily, and saw Isabella laughing with paint on her face. For the first time, Margaret understood. This was something she had never given her daughter, joy. She approached Ethan quietly and apologized, her voice shaking. She admitted she had been blinded by fear of losing control and by the belief that wealth defined safety. Ethan forgave her, understanding that motherhood came with its own wounds. Slowly, a fragile truce formed. Months later, Margaret invited Ethan and Lily to a small dinner, nothing extravagant. Just an attempt. Over time, the walls softened, and their lives intertwined. Isabella finally found the warmth she craved. Ethan found acceptance he had never thought possible. Lily gained a sister figure who adored her. And Margaret discovered that kindness, not wealth, built real stability. Years passed, and the bond held strong. On Isabella's 18th birthday, she made a speech with shaking hands, saying, I once had everything money could buy, but the greatest gift I ever received was a single father and his little girl who showed me what love feels like. And as Ethan hugged her warmly, she whispered, I chose right. Sparkles, if this story touched your heart, don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more true kindness tales.